I'm here today with Mayor Tony Lack, who is the Mayor of Wokingham Town. Tony's very kindly offered to answer a few questions and give us his views about active travel in and around Wokingham. It's a very topical issue because Wokingham, obviously the largest town in Wokingham Borough, and there's some work going on at the moment to update and produce a new infrastructure plan for walking and cycling in Wokingham. So we're looking forward to seeing that, but in particular, looking forward to hearing from Tony today. So Tony, could I start off by asking you to say a little bit about Wokingham Town and active travel in and around the Wokingham Town area?
Yeah, sure. Well, Adrian, thank you very much for having me along. It's good to talk on these sorts of occasions. Interestingly enough, in your introduction, you said that Wokingham was one of the biggest, well, is the biggest town in Wokingham Borough. In fact, just recently we were given the borough's pollution index, and needless to say, Wokingham Town is the biggest producer of pollution in the borough, and that doesn't include the motorway and the railway lines, of which we have no control. But we do have worries for health. Particularly the Norreys corner, the northwest corner of Wokingham, sorry, northeast corner of Wokingham, is surrounded by the M4 and the A329M. So anything that we can do to improve pollution, is that the right word? Reduce pollution, is going to be good. Wokinham's an old town. It's got it. I guess you could compare it to, the centre of London in places, narrow streets designed for carts and horses and all the rest of it. A heritage area which we don't want to change, and the winner is the car. So we do need to do some work to improve the environment and the flow of people throughout the town.
Thank you. And when we were talking before we started, you mentioned your own experience of walking in and out of town and cycling around the area. What do you do these days, or what have you done in the recent past in that way?
Okay, so up till a few years ago, I was a keen triathlete. Not a young one, not with racing handlebars and stuff like that, but I was enjoying doing them. Half a dozen a year, that sort of thing. Injury and old age have put that a bit slower, but we're also always keen. Claire, my wife, and I walk into town when we can. We live on Moose Hill, so it's a nice walk along the Embrook and through Barkham Park, and then over those horrendous bridges at the railway, which we would hope can be flattened out in due course. I cycle into town from time to time, not as much as I used to, and rarely using a racing bike. I tend to use the shopping bike for that sort of thing. But that keeps us going. And I have an allotment in town, or near St Paul's Church, which I cycle to whenever I can, so that's good. But yes, the town centre itself doesn't really work particularly well for cyclists. The roads are very, very busy. Those two lanes that come through Peach Street don't leave a third lane available for bikes. And there is little place to park them. There are one or two of those iron railings that are there that, especially on the wider pavements outside Boots and so on, where you can park and lock up your bike. But there's not an awful lot of it. Again, back to the walking side of things, I find that some of the main pathways into town don't have enough places where you can plonk down and rest. Now, for somebody who's aged 8 to 40 or 50, probably not an issue. But for us who are getting a little bit longer in the tooth, you need somewhere to just stop every 20 minutes or whatever and have a break. And there's quite a few of those missing. Sadly, they're missing because they've had to be removed from use because of the youth congregation that use them in the evenings. So that's an issue that I'd love to see cured if we can. Again, roads and cycling. If we take places like the Finch Hampstead Road, The road itself is quite narrow. Back to what I was saying before, cart horses and that sort of stuff. Cars both sides, a reasonably narrow pavement, nowhere for bikes. Pedestrians, fine, not an issue, but there's nowhere for bikes. So you need to come off road completely. Cycleways need to be somewhere else. And I guess the concept of the greenways, which the borough are working on, that's not a bad idea. So I'm hoping we can get there.
If we were to improve the ability for people to travel, walking and cycling into and around the town, what do you think would be the benefits for the town?
Okay, so vast. Everybody who cycles into town, that's one less car. One less car is one less bit of pollution. It's one freed up parking space, which I guess, because it's the way we work, will just mean another car coming in to take its place. But the point for there is it's going to help the local economy. If it's a nice place to go, a friendly place to go, even if it's just for a coffee, more people come in. In fact, we do see that on many weekends where the cycling groups come in, park up and all grab a coffee. We see them in the new Peach Place, much the same as it used to be. A lot of them at Henry Street. Bit awkward nowadays because it's got to be indoors and outdoors. But yes, I think we're the winner on that one with Peach Place. The pollution is always a big issue. As I said before, Wokingham is a big polluter, not just from cars. There's also gas, central heating, all the rest of it. But everybody got to contribute a bit. That pollution is not good for our children's health, not good for our health, but in particular the children, I believe, bringing on asthma and other sort of things which can affect you for the rest of your days. So by bringing in more ways to travel under your own steam can only improve that health. And that's physical health, really. The other side of it is there's nothing better than a workout for anybody, really. Everybody enjoys, wrong word, but everybody appreciates a good workout. As a youngster, you enjoyed a game of football, you enjoyed running, and we've got to continue that because it's not just the physical health, it's the mental health that brings. That's so important. It's particularly now when we're in a COVID lockdown. We need people to get out. People need to get out, enjoy the outside, get a bit of fresh air, and loosen their brain. I'm not a doctor, but I think you understand what I'm saying. Just to enjoy themselves.
Absolutely, and I think we've seen quite a lot of that. It certainly in the first lockdown when people were travelling a lot less by car and travelling a lot less further. We did see an awful lot more people out walking, cycling. It's very noticeable around the Woods Hill area, but also in and out of town as well. And clearly we've lost a little bit of that with more traffic coming back on the roads and to an extent people going back to work. If we want to realise some of those benefits, clearly we've got work to do. What are some of the challenges in the town area to realising better infrastructure and more facilities for people to walk and to ride their bikes?
As I've mentioned before, the highways themselves are historical, narrow. To me, that would be a great thing to do. It's very difficult to compare ourselves. Most of us have been to Holland somewhere along the line where every road has then got trees on the side of it, and then there's a cycle path, and then there's some more trees, and then there's a road path. That's wonderful if you've got a flat land with nothing on it to begin with. We don't. So I'm guessing we're going to have to be looking at the greenways concept, which is a separate path off the highway. If you think of Luckley Path, via the old hospital, those sorts of areas, to make them in such a way that they can be used for cycleways, that would be fantastic. There is an element of caution needed there because today's byways become tomorrow's highways. So it's very, very difficult, it's very easy to switch from let's build that highway up through Luckley, okay? And then the next thing you know, we've got this sort of byway highway, let's build on it. So one has to be a little bit careful there. There are other areas where walking routes need to be improved. The railway bridge down by the bowling alley, it's crazy, ridiculous thing. I know the railway are thinking about changing it, but those things don't happen overnight. And one of my favorites is a resting bench on the way. We need to have more of those so people can stop, take a pause, look at the wildflowers, and come back in.
It's a very, very interesting perspective on that particular point, which we've not had in any of the interviews we've done so far. And I guess it's the sort of walking equivalent of having somewhere decent to park your bike at the end of the journey. It's not the journey itself, it's one of the genuine practical issues.
We are fortunate in that, particularly if you enter from the south of town, Elms Park, that area, you've got somewhere to stop and take a break before you then proceed on into the shops. And similar where you can take a break before you start walking out. But if you come in from Norreys or Embrook, it's not quite the case. It's not so. There isn't a green lung in near the ship, if you like. That's something it would have been nice if it had been built that way, but that's the way it is.
We're aware that responsibility for highways and transport lies with the borough council rather than the town council. But what do you think? What role do you think the town council could play in promoting and helping people travel more actively?
The key word you just mentioned there, promoting. That's we have a small section that deal with social media and so on that try to encourage people into our market or into our town and all the rest of it. And promoting it is the big thing. If we can promote people to do it, then the more people who are doing it, then the easier it becomes to ask the borough to put the infrastructure in as well. It's a chicken and egg, isn't it? You know, if there's a whole load of bikes in town all the time, you have to do something about it. If nobody comes in on a bike, there's no need to do it. So, I guess we need to promote people to come through to town first, on their bike, on their horse even. And on foot, of course.
Yes, yeah. And clearly, when we're talking about changing behaviours or giving people the opportunity to do things differently, it's a long process. And I'm sure, as you say, there's a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of make it easier, and together, I'm sure, as we've seen in other countries and other parts of the UK, things will change.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much indeed. It's been fascinating talking to you today. Very interesting to hear your personal experiences and a bit more of a perspective from the Wokingham Town point of view. We're delighted that you've got involved with our group on Facebook, and thank you very much for giving your support there. And it's great to have you playing a part in trying to improve active travel in and around Wokingham. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you for inviting me along. It's been a pleasure.